3 years after Batman mysteriously disappeared from Gotham City is in arrears. People are freaking out. They don't feel safe. They don't know what to do. Enter Batwoman. Yes, guys, Batwoman is here on the CW. We're going to talk about the pilot right here next.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hi guys, welcome to Pilot Reviews, where we review new series right here, whether you should dive all in, whether you should just ignore it. There's so many new shows, guys, and welcome back to Pilot Reviews. I'm Lynette, one of your co-hosts, and to my left is the great Mina. Hi,
hey,
Mina.
Everyone.
Guys, we're in the Arrowverse right now. It's like girl power.
Woman power.
What's that?
Woman power.
Girl power, woman power, female power, all the same to me. What were your overall thoughts of Batwoman?
Honestly, I was very, very surprised at the low ratings of this show, because even though I kind of have like mixed feelings about it, I didn't think it was terrible. I just came from such a high from seeing Joker this past weekend and watching it twice to seeing something that's kind of in the same universe as that obviously the two you can't compare, but I was like, this is something that I probably would have really enjoyed in high school, but just watching it now, it's not really my cup of tea.
So my overall thoughts, I'm kind of on the fence. I think that it could probably do great, and I'm a little biased because I love the whole Arrowverse and was part of the Arrow after shows for many years, and I love that whole universe. However, I didn't really know Batwoman's backstory, and I'm glad that I was able to see it in this pilot. So I'm not sure. I think that it might get great. I think that, I don't know, people are gonna love it because it's on the CW and it's part of the whole Arrowverse. But for me personally, I'm kind of on the fence. We'll see. So let's talk a little bit about their overall plot. So we have Batwoman coming back to Gotham City, and basically she's going to save the day. And in the meantime, we're also introduced to a little bit of her backstory, and we'll get into that a little bit later so that there are no spoilers if you don't want to hear it. But what's great about this is it takes place in the same Earth as Arrow, The Flash, Legends, but it's in a different Earth than Supergirl. So I thought that was interesting because maybe, because CW is good for this, we'll have a lot of crossovers, because we did get introduced to Batwoman last year in a crossover.
Yes. I didn't get to see that one, though.
It was great. It was great. It was like we waited the year and now she's here. Yeah. So I thought that was wonderful too. So we get a little bit of Kate's origin story. What did you think of her origin and like that opening scene?
I thought it was, I feel like every origin story, there's always this theme of like, oh, I wasn't loved properly, or I wasn't wanted, or there's like some sort of inadequacy whenever it's like the birth of a hero or a villain. There's this underlying theme of, I have something to prove now because I wasn't enough. So I like how they did it with this show. It's a common theme that we see in any origin story, so I thought it played out pretty well.
Yeah, I think it's a formula, because when I was hearing and watching her backstory, it really reminded me of the Arrow backstory and how like he went away for years and learned like combat fighting and all of that. It really reminded me of that. So I think that there's a formula that they use in the CW, and I can get into that when we talk about who the directors and executive producers are, but I think they have a formula and they just kind of follow that formula and it works for them. Let's take a look at who is starring in Batwoman on the CW, guys. And I wanted to start off with, let me just pull up his name because I don't want to say it incorrectly. So what's interesting about this photo here is, so this is going to be Batwoman's full costume. And as we saw in the pilot, she doesn't have the red part of it yet. It's just all black. So she's going to, I think, if we follow by the comic books, I think she's going to morph into this as she gets more into who her character is.
Looks pretty awesome. I'm getting so much Halloween costume inspiration.
That's funny. So we have Cameron Johnson, who plays Luke Fox, and he's the one that helped Kate get sort through Bruce's legacy. And I think that he's going to be the one that becomes her kind of sidekick. And you know him from the OA, if he looks familiar to you. Next up, we have Dougray Scott. He plays Jacob Kane, her father. He's the head of the Crow Private Security. You know him from Mission Impossible 2, Ever After, a Cinderella story. I thought he played a really strong character in this.
Yes.
Next up, we have Elizabeth Anwys. She plays Catherine Hamilton Kane, the stepmom. You know her from Twin Peaks and NCIS. Next, we have Megan Tandy. She plays Sophie Moore. So she's kind of like Batwoman, Kate Kane's love interest, ex-person. And you know her from Teen Wolf and Unstoppable. Then we have Nicole Kane, who plays Mary Hamilton, who is Kate Kane's stepsister. And she is in the medical field here, and I think she's going to also be part of the whole Batwoman sidekick team. And you know her from Orange is the New Black and from You. Next up, we have Rachel Skarsten, if I'm saying it wrong. You know her as Alice on the show. She is the big bad, so she's going to be the evil force in Gotham City. And you know her from 50 Shades of Grey and Birds of Prey. And last but definitely not least, the star of the show, Batwoman herself, Ruby Rose, Kate Kane. You know her from Orange is the New Black, John Wick 2, and Safe Spaces. What did you think of her overall performance?
I liked it. I was a little surprised with the casting because it just wasn't the first, person that came to mind when I thought about, who's going to be Batwoman.
Really? Why?
I don't know. We haven't really seen her since Orange is the New Black. I mean, we haven't seen her in a while, I feel like. And
she was in John Wick 2.
She wasn't top of mind for me when I was just thinking of casting, but I feel like, yeah, she did a good job for what the show is. And I feel like the show is just, every CW show is just filled with ridiculously good-looking people. Like, they have, like, the cream of the crop when it comes to that. We have like all these model personalities here.
I have a little bit of a different opinion. I think that she was a perfect casting for this because I think that what her character and her as an actor brings to the table is a different outlook on beauty, a different outlook on like being fierce and being a superhero. And I love that they are bringing out her character as being openly gay, having, family issues, but dealing with it and kind of just being a badass. I think that she's the perfect person to play this role and kind of do that whole women empowerment thing from a different angle.
Yeah, she didn't do a bad job. It was a decent job. Yeah.
No. I'm just saying with the casting you talked about, and I'm saying I like this casting. I think that she brings a different take on Batwoman. That's what I'm saying. As far as her acting, I think she held her own in this, and I think that she did a pretty good job for a CW, DC comic world show. So we'll see. It's just the pilot, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think these shows always get better over time too, because a lot of season 1 CW shows I've noticed the first episode isn't necessarily the strongest, and then by the time I watch a few more episodes in, like this happened with the show The Outpost, for instance, I was like, wow, this show has gotten progressively better and better, and I actually ended up liking it. So I always have hope for CW shows.
That's awesome. So speaking of that, let's talk about our past play. Guys, if you've not seen or heard us before, we say whether you should watch the show and whether we're going to continue to watch the show. So our past and our play. So what are you?
I'm going to say I'm a past play, even though I think I might watch one more episode of the show just for fun, just to see what it looks like. But I don't think it's a bad show. I think that if you love the superhero verse and you're a fan of the Batman franchise and you like the DC comics, you might very well like this show. And I think it definitely caters to a teen demographic, superhero lovers. And I thought there were some pretty strong feminist themes in the show. it felt like a diverse cast of people, so I would definitely recommend it for other people, and I'll probably check out like one more episode just for fun to see how it changes.
Awesome. I am a pass play, only passing because there's so much already on my docket. I am like packed with TV time, and if I don't want to be a hermit, I have to let some of these go. But I'm a definite play. If you are anywhere interested in Arrowverse, DC Comics, villains and superheroes, this is definitely going to be your show. The CW does it well, and this is not any different than any of the other shows, like I mentioned, The Flash, and Arrow and all of that. So if you love all of that, you're going to love this. And part of the reason you're going to love this is some of the directors that are doing this show are familiar with this whole CW. So one of the directors was Marco Siga. He produced The Following. He's worked on Dexter. He's worked on God Friended Me. Laura Belsey, she worked on Arrow and The Flash and Blind Spot. And then Dermot Downs worked on Arrow, Doom Patrol, and The Flash. So you see that it's all kind of the same, like directors and producers. So when I said earlier, I think they follow a formula. They get the people that know what works, and they shoot it. And we can talk about the fight scene, because there's always a fight scene in every episode of anything Arrowverse. What did you think of Ruby's fight scene?
Yeah, like I said, see, this is why in some ways I'm like, okay, I like the casting, even though I was surprised by it, because I felt like she definitely like brought that intensity to the role where she just like you just watch her and you watch the fight scene and you can't help but like be fully engrossed and immersed in it. So I thought it was good. And there was like a certain darkness to like the entire episode as a whole, like just in terms of like the color format, the color scheme, and how it's changed.
Gotham City.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So Gotham, I mean,
that dark look.
It's that dark look in Gotham. Arrow has that same type of feel as well.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, she's a trained street fighter. What I loved about finding about her backstory of her being away for so long, and we see her breaking out of the ice and being timed by someone who's training her. I can only imagine where she is, like somewhere cold and far away. I loved seeing that, and then I loved seeing her fight training in action. And she was doing that one-on-one combat, and she was taking on multiple people, which I thought was really, really interesting. And then the quote-unquote, they're called the Wunderland Gang, with their masks and all of that. I just thought there were a lot of layers. So you're fighting someone and you don't even know who they are, and they're coming at you from all different directions. And she was really holding her own until she came up to the big bad. And let's talk a little bit about who the big bad is. So Alice is the big bad. She has a gang of Wonderland people, and she kidnaps Sophie, who is Kate, aka Batwoman's ex. We see the backstory where they were in school together, and they were in love, and you see them like kissing and all happy. And before I go, I should probably say this is a little bit of a spoiler alert, so if you don't want to hear anything else, then don't listen further, because I'm going to get into a little bit more of it. So you see that they break it off, and you see that the reason they break it off is because the school doesn't accept them as a couple, and they're going against the rules. What did you think of that whole thing?
When I first watched it, I was like, oh, this is like really unrealistic that this would be happening. And then I was like, actually, no, it's not unrealistic. This is something that very well could happen, even though I'm thinking like, it's 2019. Why would this be happening? But it was such a sad scene, like when you saw that there was a choice that Sophie had to make, like, is she gonna just stay in school, or is she just gonna like run away with Batwoman? And she makes the decision like, hey, I'm not like you, like I really need school, like I don't really have any other options, this means a lot to me, like I have to stay. And you just see that like very dramatic, like, exit from Batwoman. Yeah, so it was just like It was kind of, I was kind of like surprised by like the whole like, oh, you guys can't be together here. like, we don't accept this.
Really?
Because this takes place in the modern day. So.
It does take place in the modern day, but it still happens on a regular basis. I mean, I think that we are in such a liberal area that we don't realize that there are other places that it's still a thing, and it's still not 1,000% accepted by everyone. So I think that it was something that was relatable, and if it's not even today, it's something that people have had to deal with in the past. So I think that they addressed it pretty accurately. You're either going to choose love or you're going to choose your career. What are you choosing? And Sophie decided that she was going to choose her career. So off Kate goes, and we don't see her come back to Gotham City and her family until she finds out from her stepsister that Sophie has been kidnapped by this big bad Alice. So she comes back, and she has some interesting things to deal with. She has to deal with wanting to see her father and be a part of his organization, the Crows, which is a private security team, and wanting to save this girl. So did you think that he was ever going to allow her to become part of the Crow?
It didn't seem like it. It did, just like the way their dynamic was between the two of them. It just didn't seem like they had that connection where he would be like, yeah, come join this exclusive group. It felt like she would have to like go through extreme lengths just to prove herself. So I didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah, I felt that from the beginning, is you haven't seen your daughter in how long, and then all of a sudden she's there, you give her a hug, and you're like, okay, bye, I have to take this call, and you kind of brush her off. I was like, oh, what's that whole story about? So she takes it upon herself to go and find Sophie on her own, and so she goes to her cousin's place, so Bruce Wayne. So he's been gone. She finds out that Bruce Wayne is actually Batman, which is a huge thing, and she basically decides that she's gonna take his place and find herself and become Batwoman. And I thought, wow, this is like, it's like a family lineage thing.
Yeah. I love that scene where she like finds the Bat Cave just because she's so observant, and she's like, wait, something about this whole thing is off. Like, that was fun for me because it reminded me of like some sort of like Sherlock Holmes type of investigation.
Yeah, for sure. So the other part I wanted to talk about was just the whole Batman being missing, the bat signal being turned off for good, and Kate saving the day in that whole situation. What did you think of that whole thing and how important Batman was to the city of Gotham?
Batman has always been a symbol of hope, and it's so funny whenever you watch any sort of Batman related show or movie, how everyone like is just like, what are we gonna do without Batman? Like, the Gotham City is gonna deteriorate and like fall into more and more chaos, even though it seems like Gotham City has always been terrible.
Right,
like,
in chaos.
It doesn't seem like it's ever just been like super happy and sunny outside and everyone's like dancing and running around. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of like how everyone was just like, well, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? And then it kind of like resolves itself in a way, and we have Batwoman kind of filling these huge shoes, and it's interesting to see like how this series is going to play out with that.
Yeah, I think we're going to definitely need to see more of her backstory. Were you surprised, and again, this is a big spoiler, guys, were you surprised to find out who Alice, the big bad, was?
I'm not familiar with the comics, and I know there was talk like online about how she's being portrayed differently on the show than in the comics, and there's some sort of disconnect, but yeah, I was surprised because I had no idea.
Okay, so Alice, the big bad, is Beth, who is Kate's sister.
Yeah.
So when we go back to the story where her mom and her sister are in the car going over the edge and Batman couldn't save them, and we think that Gabrielle and Beth are both dead. Beth isn't dead. Beth is Alice, who is now going to be the big bad versus, you know, the protagonist who's the superhero. And they didn't know that, and you only found out with the ruby red gems that they both had. So that's a big deal.
It is a huge deal.
That the bad guy is the bad girl who is your actual sister.
I think what's so interesting about that too is it shows that you can come from the same situation, from the same environment, and then have two completely different trajectories because of your life choices. So it's not, nature, it's literally just, nurture. It's the choices that you make in life that makes you come out differently. She was like so stereotypically villainous, though. You know what I mean?
I think it's great.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, I actually enjoyed it.
I think her character should lean into it more and just be all the way crazy. Like, it would be fantastic, I think. And I think that that's probably the direction that they're going to go. Let's talk a little bit about production. So this is made by Berlanti Productions in association with Warner Brother TV that is producing this series. We have EPs Greg Berlanti, Carolyn Dries, Jeff John, and Sarah Schlechter. For the pilot, it was EP'd by David Nutter and Marco Siga, and Batwoman was developed by Caroline Dries. So those are the behind the scenes players. They're all kind of part of the whole Arrowverse. This is not new to them, the whole super villain superpower world. It's not brand new to them. They've done other series like this before. So let's get into our ratings, guys. So we rate between 1 and 5, 1 being it was a terrible pilot, 5 being it was the perfect pilot. Where do you stand, Mina?
I would give this a solid 3 because it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as amazing and gritty and deep as I would have liked it to be. I would have liked to see like more in-depth like characters, and I know it's just the pilot, so this is just like a general overview of what's to come, but I didn't hate it. Like, I thought there were like a lot of great things about it. It definitely caters to a young audience of superhero fans, and yeah, like I would give it another shot just to check out another episode and see, but it's not something that I'm in love with, I guess.
I'm going to give it a solid 3 as well. I think that, like every other Arrowverse show, in my opinion, it's going to be the slow burn. So the first episode might not be wowing you, but it's laying down the foundation. And as the characters get built up and comfortable and we start to understand, if you don't, like for me, I don't know the comic story. I don't know the DC backstory of Batwoman. What I do know is that coming fresh, not knowing that, it looks like they're laying down the foundation for what's to come. And if it's anything like Arrow was, by the end of the season, you're going to have a crazy great big bad. They're going to have a crazy big following, and the show's going to be a hit. We already are doing after show for this, guys. So if you're interested in watching the after show here on AfterBuzz TV, we have it. It dropped on Sunday, and guys, people are loving it.
Yeah. Even we have a few people in the chat, including Mossy, who says Batwoman was much better than I was expecting.
So yeah,
we got some support over here.
Absolutely. So guys, let us know in the comments below whether you'll be watching Batwoman. And guys, if you are a super fan and you know everything about DC Comics, please definitely give us some more 411, because I don't know the comics and I want to know more. And I know that there are experts out there, and let us know what you think of this show. And guys, where can they find you on social media?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Mina Makes Magic.
Awesome, guys. I'm on social media everywhere at Linda So Girly. Definitely hit me up. Till next week, guys. New pilot, new review. We will see you. Bye for now.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.